Good morning again, everybody. It's so good to see you all. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for coming out and worshiping with us. And see so many of you. Some have been on pilgrimage, and we have Sister Allison here all the way from Canada with her parents. And just wonderful to have us all together. I wanted to tell you that Maria Goretti is probably the best-known Passionist saint, even more so than St. Paul of the Cross, I think, to the general public. People love Maria Goretti. They know all about her, or some do anyway. And it's my honor to be able to be on EWTN today to proclaim her and St. Gabriel and St. Gemma Galgani today at 4:30. If you don't get enough of my homily today, you can check it out at 4:30 today. Anyway, most of you know that she's a martyr. That's why I'm wearing red. She's only 11 years old. 11 years old. And she gave her life for Christ. The story, if you don't know it, this 19-year-old Alessandro Serenelli attacked her sexually, wanted to violate her, assaulted her, and she resisted. She's the saint of purity. He stabbed her 14 times. 14 times. And she lived for a while, almost a day, and then finally she died in the hospital. Her last words get this: I forgive Alessandro, and I want him with me in heaven. Wow, what a prayer. I'm going to focus on that, so hold on to that. I forgive him, and I want him with me in heaven. She died as Jesus died, with the words of forgiveness on her lips. How beautiful. She's a saint of purity, but what nobility, what royalty to die with such words. You have to summon the best of yourself to be able to forgive and to want the best for the person who's hurting you, for the person who, in her case, killed her. Alessandro, sentenced to prison, angry, violent, bitter, for years in prison. No change, nothing. Could care less about people. But there's power in prayer, is there not? You see, the prayer of this little 11-year-old girl as she died moved the heart of God. She appears to Alessandro in prison, never said a word, but gave him 14 white lilies. 14, remember that? 14, how many times was she stabbed? 14. That so moved Alessandro. Took him a little while to figure out what was going on, but so moved him that he appealed to the bishop to go to confession. Bishop heard his confession. He was a changed man. Totally different. Let go of the anger, the bitterness, the hate of life, the violence. Became a model prisoner such that they let him out early. When they let him out, he didn't go back to his old ways. He continued with this, what we call ongoing conversion. The prayer of this little 11-year-old girl. He actually joined a Franciscan monastery as a lay person, a lay brother. And he was very kind to people. He was at her canonization in 1950 with her mother. And now there's calls for his canonization. The prayer of a little 11-year-old girl and the power of that intercessory prayer. See, there's two things going on here. Number one, she stood firm and she resisted temptation. Our culture in our society is very promiscuous. And she is the saint of our culture. She should be. Because she's the saint of purity, as well as the saint of those who are victims of assaults, such as the shootings that we're hearing about in the schools. And there's so many, I can't remember all the malls and the different places that have happened just recently. That parade. She's the saint of the victims who were assaulted. So number one, she stood firm. And then number two, it's that prayer that I forgive him and I want him in heaven. See, that's what Jesus taught. He said, pray for your persecutors, love your enemies. That's holiness. If you can get to that point. I haven't arrived there, but I'm on the way. See, our intercessions are powerful, and it's challenging us two things. Number one, are we willing to stand firm, especially against impurity? And then number two, are we willing to pray for others even though they hurt us? And it doesn't have to be somebody who's killing us, but it could be somebody who's talking against us, or just doesn't like us for whatever reason. Can you summon up that nobility and that loyalty to pray for those people? Wow. That's what Goretti is teaching us today. A miracle happened 2 weeks ago. We all heard about it in the news. Roe v. Wade was overturned. Gives me goosebumps talking about it. It was overturned by the Supreme Court. After 49 years, tens of millions of babies slaughtered, this was overturned. Certainly it was due to the pro-life appointments on the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh and others. But what about the prayers of millions of people over decades? See, I'm talking about the power of prayer to change things. Intercessory prayer. We are a priestly people. And it may not seem like it, but God does hear our prayer. In God's time, He knows how to overturn things and change hearts. God is sovereign. Due to prayer, due to the prayers of many of you here, most of us here, this is a day of victory for us. Pat Perez is here this morning, and she and I went down to Planned Parenthood some time back, and we prayed for those who were going in to have abortions. We prayed for those that they would change their minds. And we met these 3 college girls from Texas A&M who were there praying with us. Never met them before. Young girls that could be doing something else on a Saturday morning. And one of the girls, in fact all 3 of them, as they prayed this prayer, for the sake of the sorrowful passion, save the unborn. And I heard that. I had never heard that before. Here are these young girls teaching this priest that's been a priest now for 31 years and preaches about prayer on television, written books on prayer, and they're teaching me how to pray. It's a prayer I'll never forget. For the sake of the sorrowful passion. That's very passionate, isn't it? For the sake of the sorrowful passion, save the unborn. And God heard the prayer of those 3 young girls and so many others praying for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Those young girls taught me how to pray. And this young girl teaches us how to pray. 11 years old. To forgive. To pray for our persecutors. To pray for those who harm us. To pray for those who assault us. She's the saint of purity. But what a noble saint. Our prayers are powerful, and our prayers of intercession will touch and change lives.